So we have a lot of breaking news that we really have to share in today's update, because the very big thing that's going on now is that we now officially have the decision results in several states when it comes to the lawsuits and the fight to try to bring back / continue unemployment. The big thing right now is that even if you have heard about the decisions or you know what the decision is going on, I only want to talk about specific states in today's update because otherwise there are so many states. However, I do think the story is going to be relatively interesting regardless of your state, because there is so much that's happening that I think is hopefully going to bring some level of insight to what's been going on. I will say, however, is that there is maybe one great news that we will start to share on the spot. So hey everyone, how's it going today, and welcome back to another third/fourth stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So as mentioned, is maybe one really great news to share and to just begin off of the spot is that we actually now interestingly officially have word that there is now officially a 15th state that has now officially filed a lawsuit to try to fight and bring back unemployment. And just for perspective is keep in mind there were 26 states that had to experience ending unemployment early. So of those 26 states, 15, so more than half of those states, have now officially had some kind of lawsuit happen. This 15th state is a huge congrats to the state of New Hampshire for officially becoming, as mentioned, the 15th state to open a lawsuit. Now, the big thing really that's going on is that we do have decisions from several other states, such as Ohio, such as Florida. Even if you have heard about these decisions, and even if you are from outside, now we will also talk about a couple of other states as well, but especially these two states, because they are the states that officially have a decision that comes out, that has already come out. And even if you have heard what this decision is, there's a lot more in-depth stories to what actually is physically going on that's a little bit more complicated. So it's going to make a lot more sense. So we're going to get right to it. But as always, maybe real fast before we begin, maybe consider smashing the like button, especially since we at least had some great news to share. And then of course, a lot more important stuff that's going to come up, although you guys can decide. Consider subscribing if you guys are brand new here. Always happy to have new people. If you guys have been here for a while, huge thanks, because it really has been always greatly appreciated, especially if you guys have been here for a relatively long time. It does mean a lot. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything, or actually as always is any particular information that you might have at all about your particular state, whether it's decisions, lawsuits, or just honestly just really anything at all, because I think at the end of the day a lot of people would really love to be able to hear it as well, and some of it is very subtle and hard to find information right now. So with that being said, let's get this video started right on the spot. So as mentioned is that the really great news in the first state I'm going to be focusing on is the huge congrats to New Hampshire for officially becoming the 15th state to file a lawsuit. I believe what ended up happening is that just over the last couple of days, they officially got their papers together. They officially put in the lawsuit. They're going to be filing on behalf of 4 people, so 4 plaintiffs. And we talked a little bit about why this is particularly important, I believe, in one of the updates called 13 states, where I talked about Texas. The long story short, if you just happen to be brand new here, is that Texas struggled with their lawsuit partially because in the very beginning they were not able to even identify the plaintiffs because they never specified the specific people that they represent in the beginning. Now they did, but in the very beginning they struggled for that reason. So in New Hampshire, and that's kind of why I always say is that I do think it's important to even understand what's going on in other states, because a lot of it will be very applicable across different states. But as mentioned is that the big thing is that they officially have their plaintiffs. There's 4 people that they will be filing the lawsuit on behalf. And the big thing is that we also interestingly have the specific hearing, the date of the hearing scheduled, which I believe will be scheduled for September 3rd. So the big thing is that by the end of this week, essentially, we will officially have the hearing. And it's actually very perfectly timed because it's going to be just a couple of days before the actual ending of unemployment across the entire country when it comes to the federal programs, of course. So that is the big thing, of course. Now we just have to wait for the physical hearing and see what actually physically happens. Now, the next state that I really want to focus on is going to be Ohio, and this is where the interesting story really comes in. I know that many people probably have already heard about the decision that came out last week, but the only reason why I put off kind of sharing this information was because so much of the information in Ohio was either unconfirmed or it was kind of left with a lot of question marks to what's been happening. So the great news, with a little bit of a caveat that we will have to share in a little bit before it gets super celebrating or anything like that, is that it is correct, if you have heard about the news, is that in Ohio is that they did actually in fact win their appeal when it comes to the lawsuit to try to bring back unemployment. So a very, very huge congrats there if you happen to be in Ohio, because what happened in Ohio is that they were the very first state that sadly did not win back their unemployment when it came to getting their decisions in the beginning. So naturally they did become the first state that did file an appeal, and as of right now is that they've also officially won their appeal to bring back unemployment. However, there is a very interesting story, and this is the reason why I was very hesitant to share it, is because even though they have officially won their, I guess you can say, is that their appeal according to the judge that wants to make that decision. So the judge in Ohio that made that decision, his name specifically is Michael Holbrook. And essentially what happened in that last hearing is that he officially made the statement and decision that he believes that given the current situation, he believes that the people in Ohio need it, especially because the pandemic is still very, very much here, that in a lot of ways he believes that the unemployed people do deserve unemployment and should have it reinstated. So in that situation is that the great news is that we do officially now have a judge that has now officially sided with the unemployment. However, the big reason why I wanted to mention about this caveat is that because Governor DeWine, who is the governor of Ohio, if you're outside of Ohio, the big thing is that now he is actually trying to fight the decision that's going on with the judge. You can kind of say that, if he did have the power, he definitely at this point would be actually trying to sue the judge that made the decision against him. However, because he is a judge, he doesn't fully have that ability. But he is trying to do right now is that he's essentially trying to find ways to fight that decision. So in other words, to try to appeal the appeal. So how he is currently doing it is that the current situation is that in Ohio, they have officially won their appeal to try to bring back unemployment. However, what's going on is that Governor DeWine has actually officially tried to take this case and now bring it into the upper higher Supreme Court. So when it comes to the world of just laws in general, there are different levels of court. You have something called county court, which is where the decision was originally made, but then you also have the higher court. What's going on is that because Governor DeWine originally won, but now that he lost because of the appeal situation, he is now trying to fight this judge by taking this case and opening another brand new one, and now trying to bring it to the higher Ohio Supreme Court and hoping that he can be able to essentially just win it over there to essentially reverse the decision again. So essentially what's going on is that he's trying to overtrip the power and essentially just overpower the judge, Michael Holbrook, who made that decision to side. So he's the guy that's, in favor of us, the unemployed people. What's going on is that he wants to try to bring back unemployment, but because now he is being attacked for the current situation, he doesn't even know if he's actually physically able to do it anymore. So essentially the timeline of the story, if you're in Ohio, is that they filed their lawsuit. They originally lost their lawsuit. They filed the appeal. They've officially won their appeal, but now the appeal is being attacked, and the judge, who actually is ruling in support in favor of trying to bring back unemployment, is now trying to be essentially overpowered from actually physically being able to do that. So hopefully that kind of clarifies what's going on in Ohio. In terms of what we're really expecting next is that we really have to now see what the Supreme Court in Ohio says, because it looks like now the case is going to continue even further. So we don't really know, but at least the big thing is that at least the case is still ongoing. So at least now we're seeing some level of support that's in favor of us. Of course, now it's starting to get relatively intense, but at least it still exists. So there is still some level of hope, and I think that's the really big thing to note. Now, in the state of Florida that we're going to move on to next is that Florida did recently have their hearing. we talked a lot about Florida's case, I believe, in the one of the last videos. I believe the name of that video is called 14 States. It'll say 14 states in the thumbnail. And I'll also put it at the very, very end screen if you just want to hear about the story of what happened in Florida, especially even if you are outside of Florida, because it is a very interesting story as well. But the hard news maybe to just share, and I know this is not easy to take in, but the idea is that in Florida, they did actually end up getting their lawsuit denied. So what's likely going to happen next is that they're probably going to have to file an appeal, but we don't know about that. All we have officially is just now the decisions of what happened in the hearing, and of course the hard news to share, and I do admit it's probably even harder to hear. So there's a lot of feels to, you know, maybe try to stay strong to get through this, because I do know it's difficult. But just know is that it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people. As some of you guys know, 7.5 million people are going to be impacted by the very end of this week. But that's really the story about what's going on in Florida right now, is that it sadly was denied when it came to that last hearing. However, it is looking like they probably will file an appeal, but of course is that there is, of course, I think it's fair to say, better news that we had hoped to be able to hear. But essentially that's pretty much what's going on over there. And then the last state that I really want to talk about is really just going to be Texas, because at the end of the day, they are one of the largest states that had their unemployment sadly end relatively early. So we talked a lot about the story to what happened in Texas in one of the previous videos. I believe that one on the thumbnail, it's called 13 states. So, you know, all of these videos kind of stack up on top of each other. They kind of really flow as like a part 1, part 2, part 3 story. But we talked a lot about what happened in Texas. So if you're interested in hearing, definitely check out that video. But the story with Texas right now is that they did end up having their decision. And ever since what ended up happening with their decision, as we mentioned, is that they are trying to file an appeal to reschedule, since they had to postpone their hearing because of an incident that ended up happening during their last hearing. However, ever since that ended up happening, Governor Abbott has essentially just fled the scene. So in other words, what ended up happening is that they're trying to file an appeal onto Governor Abbott. However, the story is that ever since what ended up happening with him catching the pandemic, you know, when he first originally tested positive, then eventually he tested negative, he's kind of ever since gone super, super quiet. So we don't actually know the situation and what's happening. The most recent thing we know is that they have to now file another, or simply put, schedule another hearing to try to continue the case. But at this time period, it's pretty much just gone mute and paused. So that's probably the big reason why we haven't really revealed as much information. If you do happen to have information, especially whether you're watching this now or into the future, definitely feel free to share it, because I think a lot of people would really, really appreciate it. But essentially, that's pretty much what I really just wanted to cover in today's update, to really give a picture about the big states. If I didn't get to your state, then likely it means that we just haven't really gotten as much of an update ever since the last couple of updates. Definitely feel free to check those out, because I do try to cover as many states as I can. Of course, we can only cover based off of states that actually do have a physical update. But as always, if you guys maybe found that insightful, consider smashing the like button. If you guys haven't done so already, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for similar videos. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, maybe any particular information you might have, or really about honestly just really anything at all. It's always great to say hi to new and familiar faces. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, stay strong, because I know it's going to be an intense week, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.